Hey, this is JC, and welcome to the Pro Talk Podcast, brought to you by Housecall Pro, the software that tens of thousands of home service professionals use all across the country. In this podcast, you're going to be hearing from Texas Medley, the owner of Medley Heating and Air in Dallas, Texas. He's going to be sharing the story of how he grew his business, as well as providing some encouragement and practical strategies on how he is dealing with the complexities amidst the COVID-19 crisis. We hope that this podcast is encouraging and inspiring to you while providing practical strategies on how to grow your business. All right, today we have our friend, Texas Medley out of Dallas, Texas, Medley Heating and Air, and he is a good friend of ours, and he is here to share his story of how he began his business, some of the things that he learned in terms of successes and personal failures in order to be where he is at today. And we're also going to be talking about his approach considering the COVID-19 crisis that we're facing as a country. And he's going to share some practical ways and some words of encouragement in this difficult time of crisis that we're all facing as a nation. And so let's welcome Texas Medley. Texas, tell us a little bit about your business. How'd you get started? And there you go.
Hey, JC. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I feel like a celebrity now. I'm a big shot. I made it in life.
There you go.
So I got started in the trades because of my dad. My dad, he'd been doing heating and air conditioning service and repair and installations for over 20 years. I was in fourth grade when he got into the trade. And so growing up all throughout school, during the summers and anytime we'd get a break away from school, even weekends oftentimes, I would go help my dad and earn a little extra money. He worked for a small company of one other guy, the owner and my dad. And then, of course, in the summers, I'd come up and I'd make like $100 in a day and just really work my butt off. And I mean, you're talking 11, 12, 13 years old, making $100 a day. That was killer. I could go to work 2 days, 3 days, make $300 and be the most balling fourth, fifth grade in the school. But so I did that growing up. And then when I turned probably 16 or something like that, I left. I went to the grocery business and I did that for a while and enjoyed it a lot. And it really helped me a lot later in life. And I didn't even realize it at the time. And we'll come full circle to that, I'm sure. A couple of years of that, and I left the grocery business because I said, hey, this kind of sucks. I'm going to go back and do heating and air again. And so I was probably 21 at that point, and I've been doing it ever since.
That's right. And then you were working for a company at the time, right?
Yeah, one guy. So it was a little strange. I worked for one guy, and he didn't have just a ton of work. He would bring me up to help him when he was flooded with work. And I mainly doing installs. So I got really good at doing installation work for him. And then when he didn't have work, I went to the supply houses and I found other contractors who needed install work done, and I would do installs for them, kind of like a subcontractor type thing. So they pay me a couple $100 to go install systems for them, and I would fill my week up between these 2 or 3 contractors, and that's how I filled my week up with work.
Yeah, I'm reminded of the story when I was visiting you out in Dallas, Texas for our one of our mastermind conferences, and we got to hang out for a day. And I remember you telling me that even as a grade school young kid, you would go to each neighbor and knock on their door and goes, do you need to take your trash out? Because how far was the trash? Was the trash can from the actual complex or neighborhood that you were living in at the time that people were like, yes, I want you to take it? And then how much did they pay you?
Okay, so yeah, to add a little perspective, there was this apartment complex that we lived at, and there was one trash can, a big dumpster at the whole complex. And so depending on where your apartment was, you could be really close to it or really far away from it. So some people, it wasn't a big deal. You walk 20 yards and you dumped your trash. But some people were, I don't even remember. I'm sure in my mind now it seems a lot larger than it was. But at the time it seemed like, maybe a quarter mile because it was the other end of the complex. And so I went and I would knock on those people's doors and just ask them, hey, for $1, I'll take your trash to that trash can for you. And they would let me do it because they didn't want to walk all that way carrying trash bags. And then it turned into couple of people said, "Hey, $5 a week I'll just set it on the porch." And then I would go pick up their trash bags and dump the trash, and they'd have the money under the floor mat. And I was probably 6 years old at that point.
Man, the young entrepreneur. So fast forward back into the whole story of you getting, working and then finding other, business owners to hire you to do more contracted work as an installer. At what point and age were you when you decided, I'm going to do this by myself? I'm going to go out there and start my own business.
I knew that early on, but I also knew that if I did it too fast, I'd probably end up screwing myself. That I really wasn't mentally prepared, nor did I have the skill set that I needed. And if you wait until you've got all the skill set you need, then you'll never do anything. But I knew that I didn't have enough skill set at that point. So I waited. I was probably 21 when I made the decision, and 25 when I actually did something.
Wow, that's a lot of self-awareness for someone in their 20s, right? It's like you're like, I remember being in my 20s, I'm like, screw it, I'm just gonna do it on my own. I'm gonna do my own thing. I don't want to do this anymore. And you had the wherewithal and the self-awareness to say, I need to do some research, and you were methodical about your transition.
First of all, I'm just gonna say that everything I say here, I say it from a point of my experience. I'm actually pretty uncomfortable talking about myself. So this is hard for me to do this. So I just kind of want to throw that out there. I'm going to try my best to say everything I can as bluntly as I can and direct, but I do get pretty uncomfortable talking about me.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Well, but we'll think about it from the perspective that we'll think about this as one of the things that you and I also talked about is you really value leadership and mentorship, and you're a learner. And so one of the things that I remember you and I talking about when you took me to what that
Whataburger.
The Whataburger. Dude, that was impressive. That burger joint was impressive. We do not have that here in California. And so, man, I think I was out in the Midwest somewhere, Kansas City. And I was like, man, I need to find me a Whataburger. But thank you for that. And during the time that we were having that meal, you were talking a lot about mentorship, leadership, learning from other people's failures and successes. So we'll just talk about it from that standpoint, right? We're not blowing you up, but you are passing on knowledge and wisdom so that other people can grow from it.
Absolutely.
So how did you end up transitioning from, at that, you were 25, where did you get the capital to do this? How did you say, like, I'm going to just jump in and start my business?
Okay. So the guy who initially trained me, his name was Steve. When Steve was retiring, he told me several years before, hey, I'm just going to, I'm going to sell you my company when it's said and done. When I'm out of here, I'll sell you my phone number. It wasn't really a company. He was going to sell me his phone number. It wasn't worth a lot. He didn't have a son that wanted to run it. He didn't really have anybody like that wanted it. He knew me and my integrity and felt comfortable leaving his clients of 20 plus years with someone like me. So he ended up making me a good deal on it. But prior to that, I had been in business maybe a year or two, still doing my subcontract thing. Trying to learn how to get customers. I was actually living in a rent house. It was me, my now fiance, girlfriend at the time, her sister, and her boyfriend splitting a $1,300 a month rent 4 ways, and none of us still had any money. And I started it out of that garage.
Wow, the true grind. And what was that like for you when you're trying to get as many customers? I mean, what was the process of trying to build your company at that point?
So I'll tell you the worst part of it for me was, and my fiance, she never meant anything by it, but she would say, "Oh, you didn't have any work today?" And she didn't mean anything. I was like, "Oh, sucks."
So
she would ask me that, like, periodically. She'd say, "Oh, you didn't have any calls today, or you didn't have any jobs, or you just stay at home?" And she didn't mean it rude, but I took it like, I'm a failure. She's right. I did nothing today.
And so then?
And so then I still had nothing for like a year. I'd get a call here and there, and someone would refer me. And once you start getting those referrals, it starts taking some traction. But getting that and getting people to trust you who've never heard of you before, and getting somebody to say, "Hey, I'll give this guy a try," when no one knows who he is, he has no reputation, his truck is not marked. I mean, my truck just had some stickers on it. It said company name. It wasn't even Medley Heating and Air at that point. It just said the company name on a white pickup. It was hard. I mean, getting customers is really hard when you have no established clientele. Once you've got that clientele, it kind of snowballs, and you get that traction, and it grows faster and faster and faster. But getting it to that point is really hard.
Right. So at what point did you start hiring people and, feeling like you had the rhythm and the revenue to take it to the next level?
So I had this gentleman, Jeremiah, and Jeremiah still works with me. He's one of my best friends. He has been since 7th grade. And when I was doing the subcontract work, Jeremiah had a job working overnight at a store. He would go in at 10 at night and get off at around 6 in the morning. But when I did those subcontract jobs, I couldn't do them physically by myself. So I would have Jeremiah come up when he'd get off work, and I'd pay him $100 or something for 6 hours of work. And he basically was learning field at that time, because our ultimate plan was, hey, when this thing gets enough traction, I want you to come here with me, but I don't have enough money to pay you full time yet. So he would actually get off his job overnight and then come help me during the day and try to learn while we did these jobs for these other people. And so he was my first, I guess, quote unquote employee, but he wasn't really. He was kind of like a day laborer. Fast forward when Steve was retiring, when I took over his clientele, you gotta realize that I had 2 years of clientele and Steve had 20 plus. So that was a big boost to our revenue and to our business. And when that happened, Jeremiah didn't quit his job. He went on like a leave of absence. He said, just in case this doesn't work out, I haven't lost this job. And so I still remember the first 2 days the phone didn't ring, and we were getting nervous. We're like, dang, dude, you done left your job, and man, I bought a house, and I got a family now. Like, what are we gonna do? And then that phone just didn't stop ringing ever since. It just rang one day and it didn't stop.
Oh man. So if we were to think about this numbers wise, what was your annual revenue for that first year, and then you fast forward to like a year and a half later when Steve had you had this awesome relationship. Well, I think that is an awesome blessing, right? That he would say, hey, here's my number. You are the guy that this is all the recommendation of all my clients will now be yours. How did you what was the jump in revenue? Where were you at that year one to then year two?
Sure. So it was actually year 3 that took place.
Okay. Year 3.
So year 1 was, and this is including my subcontract jobs I did for other people, $60,000 in revenue my first year, including subcontract work. I made $11,000 my first year in business.
Wow.
It was awful. I told my fiance later on, I was like, you never knew, but I was like taking loans out from banks just trying to survive. I was taking $2,000 loans out, paying them back as soon as I hit a job, and then having to go get another loan, then pay it back, and barely just making it by. And it was stressful. And then year 1 was 60, year 2 was 120, year 3 I bought Steve's and it was 450. Year 4 was 1.1 million, year 5 1.6.
Wow. And what year are you in business now?
I think this is that doesn't sound right. 5 maybe?
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe 5. So keep in mind that the subcontract thing, the work I did as a subcontractor, I was not a contractor yet. but I was doing work for other people. So technically, I guess I've been in business 4 or 5 years
Okay.
under Medley Heating and Air.
So you obviously, yes, there's a couple of blessings by way of networking because you were in this position where yes, you didn't get as much work when you were an installer. So you sought other people out, which I'm sure just kind of created a strong network of individuals that you were connected to in order to work. But I mean, what a huge blessing that Steve would entrust you to kind of be the legacy, to live out his legacy, his business, right? That you would continue to thrive. What would you say is the secret sauce to all of this? Like what has made you as successful as you are today?
100% is having a servant's heart. 100%. I mean, obviously, there's other things that you have to know and skills, but that is the underlying theme across everything. And I truly believe that, 100% believe that. It comes from a place of being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and take care of them the way that you would want to be taken care of. Or actually, beyond that, taking care of them the way that someone you love, you'd want someone you love to be taken care of. Loving your customers, because we do. I mean, I'm thankful for every one of them. They a, a customer can call anytime, and someone's going to answer the phone. And if they don't, then it's 2 or 3 in the morning, and they're going to call back at 6. Uh, Lady called last night. She said her water heater was leaking all over her house. I'm not a plumber, but I do know how to shut water off to a water heater and drain it. 10 o'clock last night, I'm driving over to this lady's house to shut her water off and drain it till I can get a plumber out there. But we stopped her home from being damaged. Just things like that. Being able to find ways to serve at a higher level and take care of people.
Where does that come from, Texas?
What, the servant's heart?
Yeah, your servant's heart, your mentality for that, it sounds like it's a true value. It's obviously the true value of how you run your business, that you treat your customers with the utmost respect and you serve them. Where does that value come from?
I think that a lot of it comes from how I was raised, obviously, but a lot of it is also learned, in that you can come from a really good place but not know how to present that message appropriately, so it's not received as a place of being uh, warm and welcomed. So, for an example, is somebody may feel like they are doing you a favor by being very blunt with you and telling you very directly, but that may not be received well on your end if someone's very blunt and very direct, even though the messenger is saying it with good intention. So I think that learning people and watching their habits and who they are and how different personalities react, you kind of got to craft your message to certain personality types. If someone's a very direct person, then probably the best way to present your message is very direct, 10 words or less. If somebody is a very soft person, you're probably going to want to use softer language to present that message, and being able to match that energy that they give off so that your message is received well. And that too falls back on having a servant's heart. You're serving them by figuring out how can I share this information with them in the way that's going to make the most sense to them.
That makes so much sense. I was talking to John Cypress. He's a pro out of Orange County, and we did a podcast interview, and he's really big on networking. And he says that he was really impatient early on, but then when he understood that connecting with people, there was so much power in that, he discovered something, and then he shifted, right, to not only gain more clientele, but to make his job more enjoyable and for it to thrive. And so what he would say is, if he would look for different connection points, like if a person was wearing a Dodgers hat or a Dodgers shirt, he'd start talking about the Dodgers or something, and then he would realize, or he would see that the energy would like match up. You know what I mean?
But it has to be real. It can't be forced.
Right. You can't say like, "Oh, I love the Dodgers," when
Yeah.
you're not a Dodger fan.
No, you can't do stupid stuff like that.
Right. No fake words. Nothing fake. When you think about your business and the way that you've run it, I want to do a little bit of an experiment here his own experience with something, because I know that you have this and you can pull it up real fast, and I'm sure so you have a lot of reviews, and you understand the value of reviews. I mean, pros understand it. You get a lot of reviews, it's great. You want to make sure that they are real. People will always end up looking at the bad reviews to really see like, whoa, is this person human? I'm sure they have bad reviews. I want to read those bad reviews and see how bad it actually was, amidst all of the ratings that they have. But I would love for you to share one of your bad reviews.
We've only gotten one ever.
Okay.
And it was fake.
What? Could you read it for us?
Posted 10/15/2018 on Yelp, of course. Have you ever been in a situation where an individual talks in a virtuous and polite manner, but their body language betrays their real attitude and intentions? The post office will not deliver to mailboxes blocked by vehicles. The mail person can get fired if they make the extra effort to deliver the mail. This isn't something they have any leeway over. Medley's truck now blocks my mailbox. Their body language betrays they don't care. Either that or their tone-deaf employees just don't get the connection. Plenty of other places to park, but 2 steps means more to them than bystanders receiving their mail. I live here. Probably could let the nice policeman explain the error of their ways, but I'll probably let this one slide. Not worth the squeeze to pursue it, but think, if they do things like this, they are certainly doing similar to customers. Beware.
How articulate. What was your response to that?
Sir or ma'am, I'm truly sorry if this has been your experience. I can honestly say I'm not sure what this is regarding, however. Where did this incident occur? I can promise you if somebody has asked us to move a vehicle, we're more than happy to oblige and truly respect the postal workers and understand their duties. I would love to discuss this further if you would allow. My direct line is this: I will do whatever it takes to make this right.
Nice. And how did you discover that it was a fake review?
Because we don't work in that city. If you go to their account and you see where they live or whatever, we don't work there.
And how far is that? How far is that from the place that you work?
60 miles or something.
Sorry, you cut out 60?
Yeah, like 60 miles.
And then you looked for their account and discovered that they were trolling other people too.
I wish I could still click the account. It won't let me because I guess it went to a not recommended filter or something, but they were leaving like bad reviews on CC's Pizza. Like, it's $4, man. What do you expect? It sucks. We know it sucks.
Sorry, CC's. We're entitled to our opinion.
They left a bad review on Nebraska Furniture Mart, saying that they were using their information for data mining or something.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So, thanks for sharing that.
Thanks for reopening that scab.
I know me, man. It's nice to throw a little salt in there every once in a while.
So many good reviews, and then that knucklehead shows up.
I'm sure nobody will take that seriously. So, thinking about the current crisis that we're in, I mean, man, what was it like hearing about it for you? What did you think, as a business owner? Tell me.
Yeah, so I slept on it. And that's the truth. I slept on it too late. I wasn't taking it near as serious as I probably should have in the beginning. I thought rhetoric, I thought hype game, election year, all this other stuff, and I didn't give it enough attention. And I think that a lot of people probably did the same thing, whether they'll admit it or not. Probably wouldn't admit it, but I admittedly did not act on it quick enough. My dad actually told me about it back in like January. He's like, "Hey, you need to check out what's going on in China. This stuff gets crazy. It could really cause some problems here." So he had been on top of the game, in the know and aware of this. And here I am pedaling along, and then I run into a brick wall. All of a sudden, people are not wanting to come into work. We got businesses closing down. It's just chaos, as I'm sure it is where you are as well. However, I'll say in my area, at least, meaning the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I don't know about all of Texas because Texas is massive. I don't think we've seen the harsh realities of it as much as a lot of other places have. At least that's been my experience. We've still got people calling us, still got people wanting jobs done. And it was just like a week ago that maybe a week or 2 weeks ago that we went on lockdown in Dallas. So it definitely hit us late, and I don't think it's hit us to the full extent that it's hit most places. We're not feeling the effects of it like I think so many other places are. The biggest punishment that I've received from this whole deal is I've got people that don't want to come to work right now. And in the grand scheme of things, that's pretty light when you've got businesses folding over right now. You've got people that not only are scared to come to work, but they're sick now, or they've got kids that are sick, or from a financial standpoint, after that business shut its doors and locked up 2 weeks ago, they'll never reopen again.
Wow.
So it's definitely scary, and I think that this can be a harsh reality for a lot of people, especially people that were way over leveraged. I think that's going to be a bad thing for those people.
Wow. And how many employees is your company running?
8.
8 employees. That's interesting. That's the first that I've heard, at least during our conversations with different pros, is that some people don't want to work. Maybe they're afraid of what's going on, which fear is a reaction, right? It's rightful, considering the circumstance that we're facing here in this crisis. Whereas other pros, go ahead.
I was just saying, so my dad works for me. He's 56 years old. He doesn't want to come to work. He's in that demographic, that age group that is supposed to be more highly susceptible to not recovering from this. So he's not coming in. Our office girl, she's staying at home with her daughter because she doesn't want to take her daughter to daycare. Right. Taylor, who works for me, he's not going in, not because he fears for himself, but he doesn't want to bring something home to his family.
Right.
So I get all the different angles.
Yeah. Then that's so good that you understand that. What I was going to say is, in other circumstances, companies are just laying people off, right? Because business may slow, whereas you're experiencing, yes, you've been locked down for a week now. You guys experienced the lockdown, which was implemented a week ago, but you're kind of experiencing these complex situations with different employees. How have you been able to deal with that? What's been your strategy?
So I kind of took the approach that, look, if you want to come to work and you feel safe, come on, we'll work you. We are fully allowed from a legal standpoint to continue operation because we are an essential service. But I also said, look, if you don't want to come to work, if you're not comfortable with that, I hold nothing against you. So it's kind of, if you want to work, I'll take care of you. I'll do what I can. I'll keep this boat going. If you don't, stay home with your family, take care of that. I have been floating several weeks of pay for most of those people that are staying home. Not a full paycheck, but doing what I can to keep them some income coming in. Thankfully, we can do that. We've been smart and strategic with our finances to the point that we have enough reserve to where I can do that for a little while. Obviously, I can't do it in perpetuity, but I can keep these families that depend on me from starving during this time.
Wow. And if they decided to go to work, what kinds of precautions or measures are you taking for them to feel, more safe or more comfortable?
Sure. So the two guys, so it's just 3 of us right now, me and 2 others. And the 2 guys that I've got here right now, they're not overly concerned. So it's kind of the opposite problem. Like, hey, you need to take this more serious. So it's a different problem that I'm having to work with them. And our approach has been knock on the door, step way back, 6 feet minimum. Most of us are stepping 8. When they get to the door, it's kind of a lighthearted, hey there, hey, I'm just going to give you a wave here instead of a handshake like you would normally greet with it. We try to make it kind of lighthearted, not And then we say, okay, cool. I'm gonna do my whole social distancing thing. And can you go ahead and show me where the thermostat is? And we keep that distance, of course, gloves, masks, shoe covers, etc., and very limited time within the home. So it's okay, cool. Hey, I'm not trying to be rude, but I am trying to make sure that we all stay safe here. I'm just going to go straight to your attic, straight to your closet. I don't mean to be rude. If you need anything at all, I'm here to help, but I am going to try to be as fast as I can. And it's kind of a conversation like that. And it's, hey, when I get out to the truck, I'll give you a call and we'll go over everything.
Wow. So you're providing tons of clarity so that you can get the awkward out of the way pretty much.
Yeah, you almost make it awkward intentional by kind of alleviating that.
Right.
So it's hey, and that's pretty much how it goes. It's hey, I'm just going to give you the old hand wave from way back here, and they know what you're talking about.
Right. Right. Yeah, that sounds so much better from a personal. We're having to work at home now, so I've got my 3 kids been sent home from school. Right, we're out here in San Diego, California. My wife is studying for she's in this master's bachelor's program, and she is studying from home, doing remote learning, and so our internet has sucked, and I had to like upgrade it, and so I called the internet company, not gonna name any names, and this guy rings my bell, and I get to the door real fast, but he like bounces back real quick. I'm like, whoa, you're moving like a cat, like you're far. And as soon as I open the door, he's like, are you this person? I'm like, yeah. And then he goes, we're not allowed to come into your house anymore. And I'm like, well, okay. Like, I guess we could state the obvious. And he didn't do it in this pleasant demeanor. I recognized, being the person that I am, it's like, okay, I gotta make this guy feel comfortable to be around me rather than he make me feel comfortable about being around him, and so that is such a contrast. What a great way to be able. I would have much appreciated the way that you're doing it, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna practice the social distancing. I will be 6 to 8 feet away from you, and I will be wearing these masks and these gloves and these shoe covers. Why don't you show me the way? Right. So it isn't, and it's like, it's this balance that it is about the customer, but you're also protecting your employees at the same time.
Absolutely. And you also let the client know, hey, this is for you, not just me. I'm not just doing all this to keep me safe, but I don't want to bring anything into your home where your family lives.
Right.
Because I'm in a lot of homes. I'm in 10 homes a day. There ain't no telling when I'm around.
Right.
I don't want to bring that to you.
Right. And you guys are about to enter into a busy season because it's about to get real hot out in Texas, right?
Yeah. And it stays hot all the way till like October.
Wow.
So it stays hot for a long time.
Wow. So you're having to anticipate, because I know you are a thinker. You think about the grand picture. You take that step back and your moves, your numbers. And so I'm sure you're kind of thinking about, it's like, how do I keep up with this? And then like you're going to strategically approach that, considering how long it might end up being. What are some of the thoughts that you have as you're approaching into a busy season?
Yeah, so my biggest fear is just being incredibly shorthanded. That's my primary fear right now, is not being able to serve these clients fast enough, and provide that level of service that they're so used to receiving from us. Now, the flip side to that is, I think that most people have the wherewithal and the understanding that it's not going to be business as usual. I mean, people keep saying that, yeah, business as usual, but it's not. It's not business as usual. It's completely different right now. And I think that most clients, at least any with any sense about themselves, understand that. They know that we're all going through a learning curve of how to adapt to this and how to serve through this. And if they don't, frankly, I don't really want them for a customer, just to be blunt. If they're going to be a thorn in the side while we're dealing with something like this, and they want to call and complain because they haven't had their tune-up done, and we got families we're trying to take care of over here who have no air conditioning, and families that are sick, and we're trying to deal with all that. If you call me griping because I can't be out there for 4 days for a tune-up, you can just call someone else.
Right. And respectfully decline, of course.
Absolutely.
So, when these calls are coming in and you're shorthanded, is your the staff personnel that typically answers the phones, would they be in the office, or are they able to do that elsewhere?
So typically they would be in the office and they are able to do this elsewhere. However, I haven't been able to figure out how to get the phones to forward to them throughout this mess. I don't know why. We're just having a big problem with that. And typically I would have a phone. This phone here, actually, I could actually send it home with Jessica if I needed to. But Jessica lives 36 miles away. So I hadn't been able to get that to her either. So
Wow.
yes, she has the potential to work from home, but she has not been able to.
Well, I hope you guys figured that part out. Gosh, it's got to be hard. So
Dude,
so you're the ones answering the phones too.
answering the phones, I'm doing the scheduling, I'm running service, I'm doing installs. It's almost like one of the guys the other day said, "Hey, it's kind of like when you started."
It's kind of like a reset button. Only the phone is actually ringing.
Yeah, it's worse.
Oh, that's so funny. I was talking to Jason Allen of Allen Air Conditioning and Heating a couple weeks ago out of Mission Viejo, and he was saying that, man, it was just him, and it was great. Money was great. He was picking up the phone, and then he got so busy to the point where he came from being, "Hi, my name is Jason Allen, Allen Air Conditioning and Heating. How can I help you?" to what?
So Steve, the guy I told you about, he was a very, very direct man, very direct. And customers loved him. They really did because he was so direct. And to me, it would have made me tell this guy, get the heck out of my house. But people responded to it. And during the summer, his voicemail, I kid you not, it was something like this. "This is Steve, air conditioning. Don't leave me a message. I will not return your call. I'm way too busy." And he would hang up, and then his phone would ring, and it would say bloop, voicemail. He go, I told them don't leave me a voicemail. And you'd listen to it, and it would say, "Hey Steve, I heard your voicemail. We're not going to call anybody else. Just whenever you can, get us on your schedule. We'll go get a hotel." They would not call someone else.
Dang, he was that good. It's not even hey, it would be a lot easier if you text messaged me and not leave a voicemail, because I will not listen to my voicemail. But it's like, just don't call me. Don't leave a voicemail. Like, call me next week.
That's our little joke now in the company during the summer when the phone doesn't stop. We'll look at each other and say, "Don't call me."
Oh, man. So, when you're thinking about, obviously you got your business and then you got other pros. Some people are having to consider, letting go of some different things, making some cutbacks. Um, what are your thoughts about other people kind of putting yourself into their shoes as business owners, and how would you even approach that?
So the first thing is, and this is kind of harsh, but it's the truth. You waited too late. If this is the time that you're looking to start trimming the fat, you should have been operating lean always. We tend to forget that when times are good that they can be bad, and we tend to forget when times are bad that they can be good. And things were good for so long, people buying all this stuff that they really don't need. They're way over leveraged in every area. And then something like this happens, and it crumbles them. So first thing I would say is, provided that you make it out of it alive and you get through to the other side, is don't ever let it happen again. Remember that, and build a business that can operate in good times and in bad times. A real smart businessman I used to know used to say, trim the fat, not the muscle. Don't trim the muscle, trim the fat. And in that regard, he was talking about your labor, controlling your labor, but it applies to so many other things. If you've got all these things that you bought just because they're nice, but you don't really need, or you don't really use, or it's not moving the needle, or something else can do the product just as effectively, why first of all, get rid of it. Second of all, don't get yourself in a position going forward to where when something like this happens again, because it will, that you're terrified. We operate on the Dave Ramsey principles here. We're a debt-free company, and I'm debt-free in my personal life as well. And I think that that's led to a lot of us being not panicked during this time. People don't make good decisions when they're panicked or when they're drunk. And so not being panicked right now is critical to being able to press forward, is so that you can think rationally. And I would just tell everybody, first of all, and this is long-winded, so I apologize. First of all,
fine.
Don't let get in a position like this ever again. Figure it out what's going to work, and don't let it ever happen again. Second of all, go through, and I still do this to this day. Check over your invoices. Make sure that pricing didn't get out of whack on something, because they do make mistakes at vendors oftentimes. And it doesn't mean that they did it maliciously or intentionally even necessarily, but make sure that stuff's in line. Control your labor costs. That's your number one controllable, is your labor. Now, obviously in a time like this, that's going to be tougher to manage, but you should have been managing it all the way up to this point. If that means getting out of the chair and getting into the field yourself, then maybe it means that. Recognizing things that you don't have to have right now that you can put on hold. And then going forward, do I really need those going forward? I don't have cable at my office. I don't need it. But I go in a lot of people's offices that have all these things. I'm like, man, that's really cool. That's really nice. How's that helping you move the needle? And now, Grant, I'm sure that a lot of that changes as you grow and you have more people, and the culture has to be a certain type of way. So you may want to make the environment fun. And I certainly understand that there's something to be said about that. But most small businesses, I don't think, operate lean enough. They see, hey, I made a little bit of money. I'm going to go get $500 tool. Well, do you have something else that can do that job? Is there another tool that you already have that does that? Do you have to buy that? And another way that I think people should try to start thinking of things is, let's say a business operates on a 10% net profit. I'm going to say 10% because it's just easy for me to work the numbers out loud here. And let's say you have a 10% net profit, and that means for every $10 you don't spend, that's $100 you don't have to sell. Using that same 10% net profit example, that also means that for every $100 you don't spend, that's $1,000 you no longer have to sell, so on and so forth. Wow. So understanding your numbers is critical. If you haven't understood them before, invest the time to understand them now, especially if you're one of these businesses that has the extra time at home. Use it to be educating yourself and arming yourself with knowledge for when this happens again. Not if it happens again, but when it happens again. Something will kick your feet out from right underneath you again. And I hope that more people than not will come out of this alive. But the truth is, many businesses will be lost during this time.
Wow. So, I mean, I love how you are saying that you got to set yourself up to not be panicked and to have the freedom to kind of be agile and move with the difficult times when they come. Hindsight is 2020. And so, again, now people are going to be like, for those who are in the position that are unfortunately in that kind of sad position, if you will, the challenging position, don't do it again. But hindsight is 2020. So when you look back at how you set up your company, could you give us some examples or an example of how you were able to, keep it as basic as possible and as efficient as possible without spending crazy amounts of money, and kind of being smart about it? Give us an example.
Absolutely. So we worked out of my house until my house was paid off is one example. We stretched that as far as we could before we went and we got a shop. Now, obviously we rent our shop, but that's and it's not the ideal situation to me, but it made sense at the time because this is what we could get, and my neighbors all hate me now. But that's one example. We always pay off one truck before we get the next one. I'm very fortunate that today I typically buy our trucks with cash, but before I was in that position, I paid them off before I got another one. And there's an argument to be made about leasing vehicles and interest terms and all this other. For me, it's basic. It makes the most sense to keep it simple. And we buy ours and we pay them off before we get indebted to another. So at most, the only note we ever have is one note on a vehicle. We have 5 trucks right now, 4 paid off, one with a loan. And one of the things that I always try to do is look at it from multiple points of view and perspectives. So for the instance of, let's just use Housecall Pro, and you look at kind of a cost benefit analysis to what an overhead expenditure like that costs you each month. And I would say that, first of all, if you have something that you're paying for each month as inexpensive as what Housecall Pro is, and that's stressing you out, you've probably got something else broken in your business that you need to fix first. Something that is essential shouldn't stress you out. You should have already figured that part out. You either don't have enough business for that, and it's therefore not essential in your business at this time, or it's shiny. It's too shiny. It's cool. It looks great. It feels good. Makes you warm and fuzzy inside, but not absolutely necessary to driving that needle and moving it forward. Then there's things that you can't necessarily monetize and put a price on that a program like Housecall Pro can do for you, such as the ability to send an on my way message to a client, or once they've been scheduled, they get a notification saying that they've been scheduled. You can't really monetize that because you don't really know what sort of decision making criteria the client may be going through in their minds. But I can tell you that it probably does make you look more polished than somebody who's not doing something similar. It's going to make you look more respectable. Kind of inadvertently, you're commanding respect when you have a software that does something like that keeps the customer informed and lets them know what you're doing. As far that, hey, I'm not forgetting about you. You are on the schedule, and we both know that because you've got this message here. You're not just taking my word that I wrote down in my notebook. So you couple that with the fact that you show up in a respectable looking vehicle. You don't got trash all up on the dash and in the window, and mud slung everywhere, pulling in their driveway, and oil stain coming out the bottom of or an oil dripping out the bottom of the vehicle, staining their concrete. So some of those things you can't really put a price on, but I promise you they matter. I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm kind of going off on a tangent now.
No, it's great. You know, when you think about Housecall Pro as an example, and I know that there are a lot of options out there. I'm always curious when we talk to pros, like, why did you choose Housecall Pro instead of any other software out there or any other platform that's out there, without naming the other platforms?
It was a girl named Brianna. And I don't remember anything else. She was so insistent. She called me, I think, once a week for a month or two, maybe longer. But she called me all the time, and she was so insistent. But she wasn't salesy. She kind of was, but kind of wasn't. Obviously, she was trying to sell me, which is fine. But she was so friendly, and nice. I don't even know if she still works there or not. But she was so just sweet, as I guess what the word is, and friendly. And she'd call me, and she must have called me 10 times, and the first 9 we just had a conversation. I kept telling her no, and we still talked. And eventually, I don't know what did it, and I was like, I'll give it a try. And I didn't really understand what Housecall Pro was. I thought it was some sort of like lead generation, and then she educated me, and I thought it was a way to send invoices. And I was like, oh, I got something that sends invoices. And then I sat through the demo. I was like, oh, okay, you can actually schedule stuff and send messages and all this other. And so that was cool. And then about a month, I used it for a month where all I did was send invoices because I suck with computers and I never figured out how to even schedule something. And then I finally learned that. And then that's kind of when the gates opened and I was able to utilize it more effectively in terms of for my benefit and for the client experience.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Dude, you've given us so much knowledge, and it's good to hear all of the wisdom that you're passing on. We're closing our time, I was hoping that you can give a word of encouragement for all of our pros out there listening during this challenging time.
Word of encouragement. I think that the most important thing for everyone to keep in mind right now is that you're going to be fine. You really are. If you can keep your head down, keep driving, doing whatever it is you need to do to maintain your home life. Don't stress, don't panic. You won't make good decisions when you're panicked. And reach out to somebody for mentorship. One of the first things that I did when all this was going on is I actually reached out to a couple of my customers that were business owners, and I wasn't panicked, but I called them and I said, hey, you were around during 2008, right? Why were you so successful during that period? What did you do that made you come out unscathed? So ask for mentorship from somebody who's been through it before. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Stay calm. Cut back where you can, but don't cut your muscle. Trim the fat. Don't cut the muscle. And if you do those things, it's not like you won't come out without some bruises, but you'll still make it out the other side. And that's going to be the most important thing is getting out alive, not getting out unbeaten, who didn't get beat up. You look at famous UFC fighters and famous boxers. You look at Floyd Mayweather, he's 50-0. He still took a lot of beatings in his career. So I think it's important to acknowledge that it's going to be fine.
Wow. Thanks so much for the word of encouragement, Texas. Thanks so much for your time, and we wish you well.
Thank you so much, JC. I really appreciate it a lot, and I hope that I was able to offer value to whoever listens to this.
Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's Pro Talk podcast brought to you by Housecall Pro. For more information, go to housecallpro.com/coronavirus.